Hello and welcome to Reclaim Your Wholeness for Thursday, March 18th, 2017. Super excited to bring you a topic that was given to us by Vanessa on Facebook. And the topic this week is harness your energy, or how to harness your energy. And I really love this topic because it touches on so many of the things that I really believe in and I believe are integral to how we show up every day. And so when I think of this topic, I think of the idea that, we do have access to limitless energy. And in my world, that energy can come from above, from the solar system. And that energy also comes from below when I'm grounded and connected and have my roots planted and I'm connected to myself ultimately. And that there's other things that need to be in place for that energy to flow through us. And if those things aren't in place, they actually create blocks to that energy flowing. And so I'll be touching on those things throughout this video. And the first area that I'll touch on, and I do believe that I touched on it last week in the topic of people pleasing, is that when we are giving energy to others and not being in integrity with ourselves, we actually are leaking energy. And I always like to use the example of a car driving to the city with a hole in its gas tank. And likely if you knew you had a hole in your gas tank, you wouldn't actually leave on that trip because you may or may not make it. And so having a hole in your gas tank is like you're leaking energy. And I believe as sensitive caregivers who put our focus on others, we often give our energy when we don't actually have it to give, which is interesting. And so it's the equivalent of driving with a car that has a hole in the gas tank. And so one of the first things we need to do is really start to get clear on where we are giving that energy and who we're giving it to and how it's serving us and to really find a balance. I'm not saying that we should stop giving energy to others, but noticing when we're giving energy to others when perhaps we don't have it to give, or noticing when we're giving energy to others when they're not giving anything back, so there's not an exchange, and knowing when we're giving energy when it isn't really lining up with who we are and how we show up. So the first thing is to really get clear on and create boundaries on those things that are taking energy from us, as opposed to those things that are taking energy but also giving it back, so there's a replenishment happening. Once we remove that and start to become clear, then we have more energy to give to ourselves and to show up in a more powerful way. The other piece that I like to touch on, and I do believe it shows up in so many different ways, and that's the idea of values and purpose. So in my world, values are like rebar and cement. They're the things that we stand for. It's the things that we're tethered to. It's the things that we must have in our everyday life. And when we honor our values, we create that alignment that opens us to that energy flow. And when we dishonor our values, we are blocking that energy. So if you have a value of connection and you are spending a lot of time at home, you're not allowing yourself to have the energy that comes from connecting with others, or the interactions that happen and the possibilities that happen that can occur. So it's like when we are in alignment with our values, there's like this integral piece, but it's also a flow that's created by being in alignment with those values. The other area is purpose. And purpose is that clear direction of where it is that we're going, what it is that we're going to. Again, it's that piece that we're tethered to. And so being clear on our purpose also ties into that last piece. It's like if we know where we're going and what we're doing and where we're headed, we're less likely to give energy to people who aren't falling into alignment with that purpose. And so having that clarity is really helpful to discern what's useful and what's not useful in our everyday life. And that may be things like a job. Maybe there's a part-time job you have and it's really not in alignment with who you are. The question has to come up. Is this serving me to stay at this job? Is it giving me energy or is it taking my energy? So it is back to that energetic piece. So it's not just people, it can be things that we're committed to, whether it's a volunteer organization or a job. And the last piece that contributes to being able to harness our energy or tap into that limitless energy is self-care. So taking time for ourselves. I know that for myself, a big piece of that is about getting out into nature and being in nature, going for walks, and just sitting and having the time to integrate my everyday and to reflect. For some, that might be meditation. For some, it could be yoga. For some, it might be going to the gym. For some, it might be journaling. There's all sorts of different ways of creating self-care. For some, it might be dancing, getting active, running, jogging. Like, there's so many different ways to practice self-care. But all of those are about filling up our own gas tank first and giving energy to those things that actually make us feel good. Another area can be the foods we eat and the energy that we put into creating those foods. And all of those things together, and the truth is there's more. I've simplified it down to, the top 3 things that I think are really important in terms of harnessing our energy, but there are other things as well, but this is a great starting point. So in short, the answer to my question is these 3 pieces, which is making sure we're not leaking our energy and creating solid boundaries of what we want and what we don't want in our life, being connected to our values and our purpose so that we can be on the right path, and also practicing self-care. And all of those things together really do open up that channel for the energy to flow, up and down, and that we can access that limitless energy that is available to us all the time. So wishing you a great week. Totally open to hearing your comments again. And if someone has a topic that they'd like to hear about, I would love that. Just put it in the comments below. And I look forward to connecting with you again next week.